3 years ago, I pulled back the curtain in the basement and found a web so thick it looked like something had been setting up a permanent address down there. Not one web, a network of them, spanning from the window frame down to the storage shelf, with a spider sitting in the middle of it looking completely unbothered, like a tenant who knows the landlord never comes downstairs. My wife called a pest control company. The technician came, sprayed every corner, charged us $180, told us to call back in 3 months. We did. Because 3 months later, same curtain, same corner, new web. Different spider, maybe. Identical result. Another $180. That was when my mother-in-law, who grew up on a farm in rural Kentucky and has strong opinions about most things, watched us make that second phone call and said something I have thought about almost every week since. You keep killing the spider. You never once asked why the spider came in the first place. If this helped, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from today. She was right. Her porch never had a single web on it. Not on the railings, not in the corners where porches always seem to collect them, not along the foundation where things tend to settle in for winter. She had a few potted plants near the steps, a couple of things along the garden edge, and no spiders. Meanwhile, I had a $360 a year pest control subscription and a basement that looked like a Halloween prop year-round. Today I am going to show you the 7 smells spiders genuinely cannot stand, which plants carry those smells, exactly where to put them so they actually intercept something, and what most people are accidentally growing or keeping near the house that pulls spiders closer instead of pushing them out. Stay through the end, because the last section on what invites spiders in is the part most people never hear, and it is the part that makes everything else on this list actually work. Why spraying the spider does not solve the spider problem. When people see a spider in the house, the reaction is almost always the same. Grab a shoe, grab a can of spray, make a phone call, kill the spider. Feel like the problem is handled. The spider you just killed was not the problem. The spider was the answer to a different question, which is, why does this corner of my house feel like a reasonable place to build a web and wait? Spiders do not move in randomly. They follow insects. Insects follow moisture, food scraps, light left on at night, and environments that let them breed and move around undisturbed. When you kill the spider, but leave the damp basement, the gaps under the door, the pile of wood stacked against the house, and the porch light running from dusk to midnight, collecting moths and gnats and every small flying thing in the neighborhood, you have not fixed anything. You have cleared the web and made a little room for the next one. A spray bottle works on the spider standing in front of you. A plant growing beside the door works on the spider that has not arrived yet. That difference is what my mother-in-law understood without ever reading a study or watching a video about it. She was not trying to eliminate spiders from the county. She was making her porch a place spiders did not want to approach. How spiders actually detect smell. Spiders do not have a nose. What they have are tiny hair-like structures on their legs and feet called chemoreceptors, which detect chemical signals both in the air and on surfaces they crawl across. When a spider moves near a plant, releasing strong aromatic compounds, those signals register as deeply unpleasant, the equivalent of walking into a room where something is badly wrong with the air. The spider turns around. This is why certain plants can do things that sprays cannot sustain. A spray evaporates. 2 days after the technician leaves, the chemical concentration on your baseboards has already dropped significantly. A living plant keeps producing aromatic compounds continuously, especially on warm afternoons when heat pulls the oils out of the leaves and into the surrounding air. You do not have to reapply anything. It works on its own schedule, around the clock, through the whole growing season. Number 1. Peppermint. This one surprises nobody who has spent any time reading about natural pest control. Peppermint keeps showing up on these lists because it keeps earning its spot. The compounds responsible are menthol and menthone. Together they produce that sharp, cool smell people enjoy in toothpaste, tea, and chewing gum. For spiders, whose chemoreceptors are considerably more sensitive than our sense of smell, that same concentration registers as something they want to leave behind immediately. A spider does not pause to consider peppermint. It redirects. A few years before the basement situation, my father had a consistent spider problem in his garden shed. He tried several things, none of which made a lasting difference. Then he started growing peppermint in a container outside the shed door, and he put a second small pot on the shelf near the window. Within 2 or 3 weeks, he stopped finding fresh webs inside the shed. He shrugged when I asked him about it. "Could be coincidence," he said. He kept the peppermint in both spots for the next 7 years. And the webs never came back the way they had been. Grow peppermint in containers. This is not a suggestion made for neatness. It is something you read once and then learn again firsthand when peppermint has quietly taken over the bed where you used to grow tomatoes. Containers placed near doorways, windows, the garage entrance, or the steps leading to the back porch put the smell exactly where it needs to be. Peppermint in a pot at the far end of the yard does nothing for the front door. 2 feet from the door on a warm afternoon does considerably more. Spearmint also carries repellent compounds, but peppermint has a higher menthol concentration. When you have to pick one, peppermint is the stronger choice. Number 2. Lavender. Lavender has been growing on people's porches and window boxes for a very long time, and part of the reason it survived all those generations is that it earns its place in more than one way simultaneously. The clean, floral, slightly herbal smell that people turn into candles and sachets and sleep sprays comes from compounds including linalool and linaloyl acetate. Spiders do not share the affection for it. My mother-in-law had 2 large lavender plants in pots flanking her porch steps. She did not put them there to keep spiders away. She put them there because she liked the way they looked and the way the porch smelled when she came home in the afternoon. The fact that spiders stayed off the porch was something she noticed after a few seasons, and then used as permanent justification to keep the plants there and to tell everyone about them at family gatherings. Lavender does not like being fussed over. Full sun, fast-draining soil, and minimal watering once it gets established. Wet roots kill it faster than neglect does, which is the opposite of what most people expect. If you live somewhere with humid summers, look for phenomenal lavender specifically. Most lavender varieties look beautiful through spring, and then get punched in the face by August heat and humidity, and never really recover. Phenomenal handles those conditions better and performs consistently through zones 5 to 9. Plant it near the porch, under windows that stay open through summer, or along a path where foot traffic brushes the leaves and releases the oils in concentrated bursts. That incidental contact is when lavender works hardest. Number 3. Eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is not what most people picture when they think about home garden plants, and in colder climates, it cannot live outdoors year-round. But where it can grow, it carries one of the strongest aromatic profiles on this entire list. The compound that does the work is cineole, also known as eucalyptal. It produces that cool, medicinal, slightly sharp smell associated with vapor rubs and chest cough remedies. People use it in small amounts and find it pleasant or at least tolerable. For spiders running chemical detection across every surface they touch, that concentration signals an environment they want no part of. In warm climates, a eucalyptus shrub or young tree planted near the house creates a continuous aromatic boundary without any ongoing attention from you. In cooler regions, a potted silver dollar eucalyptus, or Eucalyptus gunnii, can live outside through summer and come indoors near a bright window once temperatures drop. You do not need a full-grown tree to get any effect. You need the leaves releasing cineole near the gaps and entry points, where spiders move through. Cut eucalyptus branches placed indoors near a window or doorway also work for shorter stretches. The smell fades as the branches dry, so they need replacing every couple of weeks. For a quick seasonal fix indoors, they are worth keeping in mind. For long-term outdoor coverage, a living plant is what you want. Number 4. Lemon balm. Lemon balm gets overlooked constantly because it looks unremarkable. A green leafy plant, upright but not striking, the kind of thing you walk past in a garden center without registering it. Then you brush against a leaf, and the smell hits you immediately. Sharp, clean, unmistakably lemon. That contact releases volatile oils from the leaves, and those oils are what matter for our purposes here. The main compound is citronellal, which is the same chemical found in citronella products marketed for mosquito control. Citronellal irritates the chemoreceptors of spiders. The functional difference between burning a citronella candle for 3 hours and growing lemon balm beside your back door is roughly the same as using a flashlight for one evening versus running proper electrical wiring. One is temporary and has to be repeated. The other does the work continuously. Lemon balm grows well in partial shade, which makes it useful in spots where lavender or rosemary would struggle and fail. Near the base of the house where a roof overhang cuts the sun, beside a shaded back door, under a window on the north side. It spreads, not with the same unchecked aggression as peppermint, but steadily enough that a container is a smarter choice than an open bed you want to keep tidy. Place those containers at the threshold points, doorways and ground-level windows, and the plant does its work without supervision. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a practical tip like this. Number 5. Basil. Basil keeps appearing in conversations about natural pest control, about mosquitoes, about ticks, about aphids, about a long list of unwanted visitors, and it keeps appearing there because it genuinely works across more than one problem at a time without asking much from you in return. The volatile oils in basil, including eugenol and linalool, release steadily into the surrounding air on warm days. The plant does not need to be touched or disturbed. On a hot afternoon, sitting near a basil plant in a container, you can sometimes smell it without brushing against it at all. The limitation of basil is that it is a warm season annual. Cold weather kills it. When September arrives and temperatures start dropping, basil is finished for the year. Plan for that transition by having rosemary or lavender ready to take over at those same positions near the door. The goal is continuous coverage through the full year, not a gap from October through April, where the entry points are undefended. Number 6. Rosemary. Rosemary carries a dry, resinous, slightly piney smell that comes from camphor, pinene, and cineole. The overlap with eucalyptus in that last compound is not coincidental. Both produce cineole in meaningful concentrations, and the deterrent effect on spiders works through the same mechanism. What makes rosemary distinctly practical is the calendar. Rosemary is an evergreen in most climates. It does not die back in fall the way basil does. An established rosemary plant growing beside the front door continues releasing its oils in December and January, the months when spiders are most actively looking for warm indoor spaces to overwinter. That timing is significant. Many of the other plants on this list are unavailable precisely when spiders are most motivated to come inside. Along a porch railing, flanking a front doorway, near the steps to a back porch, under windows on the south side of the house where it gets the most sun and heat. Any of those positions puts the rosemary's oils directly in the path of what approaches the house. Number 7. Cedar. Cedar is different from the other 6 because it is not primarily a plant you tend in pots. It is a material you deploy around the house with some thought about where spiders travel and where they want to settle. Cedar wood releases aromatic oils, primarily cedrol and thujopsine, that spiders and a range of other insects find strongly unpleasant. This is the same chemistry behind cedar chests protecting stored clothing from moths, and behind the long reputation of cedar closets for keeping pests out without sprays or chemicals. People have been using cedar for this purpose for a very long time, long before anyone studied the compounds and gave them formal names. Cedar mulch spread around the foundation creates a treated barrier at ground level, right where spiders move from the soil into the house. Cedar chips placed near doorways, inside crawl spaces, along the perimeter of a wooden deck, or in the corners of a garage add that same deterrent in the enclosed spaces where spiders are most likely to build permanent webs. Cedar planks or blocks in closets and storage areas do similar work inside the house. One maintenance point that most people miss: what actually invites spiders closer? This is the conversation that makes people uncomfortable because it involves looking at the things they have been keeping in the yard and around the house and reconsidering some of them. Sometimes the problem is not what you are missing, it is what you are providing. The first thing to examine is clutter, against and around the house. Cardboard boxes stacked along the garage wall, old furniture pushed into corners and left there through multiple seasons, firewood stacked directly against the house. Spiders need three things: somewhere hidden to sit without disturbance, a web anchor, and insects to eat. Undisturbed clutter provides the first two reliably, and it tends to attract the small insects that provide the third. A garage that has not been properly cleared in several years is not a storage space to a spider. It is an established community. The second factor is moisture. A slow-leaking outdoor faucet creating a perpetually wet patch beside the foundation. A clogged gutter holding water that drips down the wall instead of routing away from the house. A basement that stays noticeably damp through summer. A downspout emptying its output 6 inches from the foundation instead of routing it away. Moisture draws the small insects that spiders follow, and moisture makes the environment around your house hospitable to things that spiders want to be near. Address the moisture source, rather than treating the symptom that appears on the wall above it. The third is outdoor lighting. A bright white light burning above the porch door from sunset to midnight is essentially an insect gathering point. Moths, gnats, beetles, and whatever else is flying in the neighborhood find that light within hours of it coming on. Spiders figure out very quickly that a porch light with consistent insect traffic is a reliable food source. They build near it because near it is where the food arrives. Switching to yellow-tinted bulbs significantly reduces insect attraction. Motion-activated lights that only run when someone is actually at the door eliminate most of the long overnight accumulation entirely. Fewer insects at the light means less reason for spiders to post up near your front door. The fourth, and this is the one that surprises people most, is dense ground cover planted directly against the foundation. English ivy is the most common version of this problem. It looks tidy from the walkway, green and managed and like something a house with good curb appeal would have. Underneath, it is dark, humid, undisturbed, and full of the small insects that spiders eat. Ivy growing along the base of a house and up the lower wall provides everything spiders need to establish themselves at ground level and work their way upward over the following seasons. Ground cover right against the foundation almost always causes more spider activity than the same house without it. How to put all of this together? The plants do the work. Where you place them determines whether that work actually reaches the problem. A lavender plant at the far corner of the yard does nothing for the front door. The same lavender plant 2 feet from the door on a warm afternoon creates a scent zone that spiders encounter before they reach the entrance. The aromatic plants need to be at the approach points, the doorways, the regularly used windows, the garage entrance, the gate to the backyard. Cedar mulch at ground level along the foundation adds a treated layer where spiders cross from soil to house. The living plants above it intercept what approaches upright. My mother-in-law did not think about this as a system. She kept a clean porch, grew plants she enjoyed looking at, and did not leave moisture or undisturbed clutter sitting around the entry points of the house. The result was 30 years of a porch that spiders consistently chose to pass over. The spray handles the spider in front of you right now, and there is a time and place for that. It does not explain why the spider came. It does not change what comes next. The plants and the habits around them are what change what comes next. If you have tried any of these, tell me in the comments what you started with and whether it made a real difference. Peppermint gets mentioned most often in these conversations, but plenty of people will tell you cedar mulch along the foundation was the change that actually moved things, or that lavender flanking the door was what finally made the corner of the porch look different in the morning. I read those comments. The problem in your yard might become the next video on this channel. Thank you for watching. More videos are on your screen now. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one.